Proverbs 27, if you turn there. Listen,
Flip your switch, please.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I want to make this relevant. And I don't have, you can load this up with personal illustrations. It according to the verse, it's a woman thing. It's not a man thing. So if you suffer from it, let's go on the assumption that all of us here suffer from this. So if you don't say that you suffer from it, then you're free from this particular sin. And if you're free from this particular sin, you're better than most, and then why bother coming to church? So if you want to apply it to your life, you have to say that you're the guilty party, right? So let's first assume that you're you must be the guilty party. And Amy's not here tonight? Oh, so after the sermon, she really wouldn't be feeling hot. And she's not here. So Amy's not. Did I scare people off this morning? Or no?
Shane's still here.
Oh, Shane's still here? Yeah. All right.
He's not scared of anything.
If you're going to have personal illustrations, well then if you use, let's say I use personal illustrations, then I'm talking about my wife.
No.
According to the verse, Anyway, I asked a brother, he came in, and I said, did you ever want to own a convertible?
You muffled up.
Am I muffled up? Oh, well, what can I do? Did you ever
Take your coat off.
All right. Did you ever want to own a convertible? Did anybody here ever own a convertible? You want to own one. But you owned a convertible. I mean, Elsie owned a convertible. You still have it, don't you? Oh, yeah. She owns a convertible. It is a snazzy car. That's a Chrysler, isn't it?
Sebring.
Seabird or
Sebring. Sebring, like the racetrack.
oh, even after you pronounce it, I still can't pronounce it. I had a convertible, and then for my first car, and then you said, "What are you, rich or something?" I paid $1,100. I think $1,150 or $1,175. It was a Chevelle Malibu convertible. It was a '65. I bought it in 1969. It had 54,000 miles on it. I paid it off in a year or two, with a little payment coupons, and I had a good time with it. My second car that I owned, was that a convertible? So I had two convertibles. And then he said, what do you want to do? You're a rich guy? No, I paid $800 for it. It was a 70, or it could have been a 68 Oldsmobile Cutlass. And I think that the first one was a manual top. The second one, I think it was a motorized top.
It was an old, so it probably was.
I think it was, yeah, that's a step up. But I paid $800, and I drove it for a couple of years. And but what ended my fun with a convertible?
Winter.
Oh no. All right. Huh? No, we didn't have any kids.
The cost of replacing a tub.
You were the target of
Oh yeah, come on, we gotta get back to the topic. Because I already told you who we're talking about, my wife. So what ended the fun with any convertible I had? I had two convertibles.
Messed up your wife's hair.
There you go, you got right to the point. It's the hair, I just don't get it. I don't get it as long as, put the babushka on or something. It's the hair. So it's hot, it's just sweltering hot in the car. I'm a kid. It is the middle of July, it's 90 degrees out. And back in '63, did you have air conditioning?
No.
No, you didn't. You cranked the window down. My father but that window, I feel cold breeze on my shoulder. And I'd have to put it up, and we would just be dripping, just dripping. So it's been nice weather lately, so I put the window down. And then, but now why is the window got to go up? I don't want the window to go up. Why is the window going up? You already said it.
Hair.
Oh, it's that hair. All right, that bugs me. That really bugs me. Now, my hair doesn't get out of place. Pardon?
Touche.
Yeah, well, that's all right. That's okay. And then the hair in the other is a woman is always
Looking in the mirror.
okay. No, that's true. A woman is always. Give me another one. You can say it even if your wife's here. Now, some women aren't, but most women are always. Come on, don't look at your phone. Stop looking at your phone. I see that downward glance. Why are you doing?
We're looking up the answer on Google.
No, you're not. Why are you on there? All right, so LeBron just walked into the stadium. You know, what difference does it make? All right, what difference does it make? Women are always late. Why is that? Now, I'm not. Didn't I preface it? Did I preface it? Did I preface it? Legally. Not in all cases, right? Didn't I did preface it. So Anthony, when he left, he did say that. I said, Anthony, you're going to get the blame for being the last to leave the house. He said, it's just, and they were going to be late, but it really wasn't Anthony's fault. But he was going to get the blame. Anyway, I can't use personal illustrations because then I'll get myself in big problems.
Well, Anthony didn't have to comb his hair.
No, he didn't. Hey, that was a little clamorous. I apologize for that. And you have no idea what the wife and I went through. Oh, my goodness. Anthony would not. I cut Lee more slack because he's older than Anthony. Let's say Anthony's bedtime was, let's make it a school night. Let's say it was 9 o'clock. It was before that, like 8:30. And Lee's bedtime was 9 o'clock or 9:30. We want them to be fresh and in the morning. They're going to school. Anthony would not, he wanted to be fair. Well, if you're an older person, it's fair to let you up a little bit later. You're teaching him, you got to go to bed. Anthony was never late in his life, and he always knows where he's at. He would be up at 11 o'clock, running around that house in his sleep, in a dead sleep, running around the house like a madman. He wouldn't get to bed till noon. You know what I mean. Midnight to 1 o'clock at night, every night. I said, what's he like this at the house? They'd say, yeah, he's like that. Well, when did he go to bed? Well, when Mom and Dad went to bed. Well, why did he go when Mom and Dad went to bed? Well, he's afraid of the dark. But it wasn't just once or twice. It was every night. It was. It's illegal for me to restrain. I better leave it there. I don't want to get any farther into this. And it was a literal nightmare. A nightmare. So as I was preparing this message, and I was thinking, wow, well, I have nothing to complain about, because a lot of clamor came in, well, a lot of clamor came over, and we had a good time, but it was. Now take all this stuff to heart tonight. You must apply this to your life. Apply this to your life, please. Proverbs 27, verse 15. Joyce was that close to becoming a nurse, and she was very helpful with Starla and Anthony both. And she wants to be a nurse. They got talking about it, and hopefully to be able to help Starla get to college, get her degree, and so on. So, anyway, Proverbs 27, verse 15. A continual dropping in a very rainy day and a contentious woman are alike. Is this a troublesome verse to preach. Has anybody ever heard this verse preached?
Nope, most preachers are smarter than that.
And I figured, I know Pastor Thompson would make a statement like that, and what would he do? Anybody remember what he would do? He'd make some kind of statement like that's blonde or something like that. Anybody remember what he would do? You don't remember. He would duck behind the pulpit. He would duck. Anybody remember him ducking behind the pulpit? He would duck. All right. Well, I guess I'm not that smart. We're gonna do it anyway. But I thought we would still yet do these things that are similar or alike. It's like twins, like two of the same, like seeing double. Father, bless now the sermon. That we would take it to heart and realize that all of us here are guilty of either being the giver of it or the recipient of it, and that we would make efforts to correct ourselves in these manners. A continual dropping in a very rainy day and a contentious woman are like. So they give this similarity from the one that this drop, this dripping, is the same thing as a contentious. Now, when we say contentious, what do we mean by contentious? Okay, a contender, a contest. I'm thinking of words that are similar. Contest, contentious. Our girl who came in here, she said she pounded on 4 kids that, and the police let her do it. I mean, I wouldn't want to meet her in a dark alley. She took on 4 gang members in Akron and let them have it right in front of her house. Police rounded them up. She got out of the car. They went at it. They took off. Police rounded them up, brought them over to the house, and she pounded on them. And somebody who is contesting a contest, fisticuffs. Now, but in our case, it's not fists. And if it's a brawl between husband and wife, the only thing I can think of that would be a brawl between a husband and wife in the movies, would it be Silent Era? Is that Tugboat Annie? Anybody here?
Early sound.
It's early sound. Is that Tugboat Annie? Wasn't the husband, Walsbury and her at odds? I don't know if that's true. I can't think of any others that would be at odds all the time. But there are homes that have contention going on in them continually, constantly. And it is this drip, drip, drip type of an affair. And if that's going on, it needs to be addressed, it needs to be stopped, and the person that's committing the dripping needs to turn the faucet off. Now, you may say, well, it's a rainy day, but let's look at these things. And I did make an outline, and I have a lot of notes here, but I don't have any personal illustrations because I'm at least that smart, not to go to personal illustrations, or keep them at a minimum. But I guess it begins, if I look at the verse in a whole, and I picked all D words tonight, because I think we can. This is supposed to be a negative, kind of a negative, and then the last point is going to be a positive. You can find a lot of negative D words. I tried to make them M words, but I couldn't find them. There's a lot of negative D words. The dread. Our first point is the dread. And when does husband and wife, when do they separate during the day? Yeah, when they go off to work. I mean, there are some women, man, am I glad he is out of here? And other guys are like, man, I'm glad I can't wait till I go to work, right? The wife could not wait until what was over so I'd get back to work. Not the regular day.
The long weekend?
No, not the weekend. A little longer period than that. The vacation. Oh, I can't wait till vacation's over. And he goes back to work. When that, I know that was mentioned once or twice. You'll be going back to work. Now, I don't know if that was the start of the vacation or the end of the vacation, but she couldn't wait till it was over. We may have had a fight or whatever, but there is the dread of going home. Now, remember, we were in the Roman Catholic Church, and I do remember a priest actually doing an illustration about this. And I took it to heart, and just because he's a priest and he's a Roman Catholic doesn't mean he doesn't have some good advice, right? He could have some good advice. So the priest, I forget which priest it was, but his father, Get Your Bucks. It's one of them guys, It was a younger fella, and he said, well, how long is it to home? He was saying from work to home. He said, let's say it's 20 minutes. Or if I didn't hear it from the priest, I heard it on the radio. But I did hear it. He says, let's say it's a 15-minute ride or a 20-minute ride or a 30-minute ride to get home. And you're on your way home. And then, and you're dreading this because they're living a life too. People are, in any denomination, they're living this life. And you're dreading getting home. And they said, well, take the 20 minutes and pray about it before you get there. Pray about it before you get there. If the husband, do I like a messy house? No, I don't like a messy house. I don't like that. There's certain things in my house I don't like. Messy house, don't like. Now, if you're running a messy house, then what should you do? If I don't like a messy house and I'm walking, hey, listen, I'll be home in 15 minutes. What should you do? And the house is a wreck. Clean it up. And then who's the boss of the house? You are at that time. You got a bunch of little Indians there. We have Indians there. Indian A, B, C, and D. You get moving, man. And you clean up the house. Put all your toys away. Do this. You set the table. And have everything ship-shape in order. And the guy doesn't know any different. It was a wreck all day, and it's all cleaned up by the time he's home. I mean, he's got his 20 minutes to pray about it before you get home. And the wife, he's got 20 minutes to clean the house up and make it however he likes it. If it's just, I don't want my slippers, I don't have slippers, and I don't want the paper. But if he likes slippers in the paper, if you know what I mean, then have that ready. But the dread of going home, a man's home is his castle. And home should be a little bit of heaven on earth. And to say that God matches men and women together, that is just not true, folks. That God matches them together. Those who were matched together in the Bible are far and few between. I mean, if you're going to find biblical matches, and you can find them, but you're going to have to do some digging to find them. I mean, there's millions upon millions upon millions of matches that are made. To say that, well, this match was made in heaven, you're dreaming. You're dreaming. So you can find matches that are made in heaven. Did Adam and Eve, was that matched in heaven? Was that made in heaven? I would have to say God matched them together, didn't he? And look how that turned out. That didn't turn out all that good. Now, when he first met her, though, in every meeting between a husband and wife, were to be as Adam met Eve for the very first time, their marriage would probably be a happy affair. If at every meeting they came together at the end of the day like that, that'd be a happy time. So it begins with the dread of it. If we look at the picture of that this thing paints. And then now if we were to look at each and every word, it is this problem that is going on, it is continual. There's no relief in sight. So it brings upon despair. A person reaches the point of despair when they see there is no resolution to this. It happened today, it happened yesterday, and I know it's going to happen tomorrow. And it's just the same repetitive problem. And it doesn't seem to go away. It is continual. Continual with no end in sight. That can be very dangerous. One of those Chinese tortures. They tie a man down and then they have the so-called the water drips on their head. I don't know if that's actually real. If that's a Chinese.
Waterboarding.
Is that what? That's waterboarding?
That's waterboarding.
Just having a drip of water on your head?
Yeah, but you do it like continuous.
I thought waterboarding was you're on the verge of drowning.
No.
Where am I? I got educated here today. That's what waterboarding is? Well, I guess waterboarding. I thought they were on the verge of death. But maybe you get so despair you think you are.
What drives you silly after?
My wife is very irritable. My wife is very irritable. The least thing sets her off. The least little thing. Man, you're lucky. Mine's a self-starter. Mine's a self-starter. Mine can be we're going to tell a few jokes and girl jokes here. Mine's a self-starter. So there are all these different women with different dispositions, you know. So there are self-starters out there. I mean, where they're just looking for a fight before the fight begins, you know. But it can be, there could be, because it is continual. It doesn't seem to ever go away. That and this is a sin. Whatever that sin the woman has, it's a continual, and it goes on. And what does it say here in the verse? A continual dropping. Now it says on a very rainy day. I think the house in the back had a tin roof. And so on a very rainy day, you know, you have a lot of rain. And it's not this, you know, when it rains here, you can hear the rain on this, even on this roof, it's pounding away. It's not that kind of a sound. I don't believe it. We're not going to make it that kind of a sound. It's not like a rain on a roof, especially that of a tin roof. And the sound of that. Now, I've heard people say they enjoy that sound. Anybody here live in a house with a tin roof at any one time, or visit anybody with a tin roof? You have. Is it irritating to you, or soothing, or it's just raining? You don't remember. All right, so you don't have a good feeling about it or a bad feeling about it. But I have read where it could be soothing or even relaxing. See, but waterboarding is not relaxing. It's not meant to be that way. But the dropping as a drip from a leaky roof. All right? Now, back then in the Bible days, did they have a faucet? They didn't have a faucet. They bring it down from the conduit. The king brought it down through the conduit. They shut it off. I think Zechariah did because they were going to be invaded. He didn't want them to have the water. So you know that is important. That's a strategic thing. So the only way you can get this drip in Bible times is on a very rainy day. You can't get it on a dry day. It's on a rainy day, and there's got to be a hole in the roof, and this leak. And it drips, you know. And you have buckets strategically. In our house, we had rugs strategically located. We had one. We called it the Great Gulf, the big split in the linoleum in the kitchen, and we had a rug over it because it was the Great Gulf that divided the lost from the saved. But on a rainy day, you have these buckets in their proper spots, you know. But it's this leaky roof, as if it's from a leaky faucet. It's the daily rendezvous with trouble and turmoil, 365 times a year. You know, where here she comes again. You know, can I escape? Are you? Is this hitting home? Or, oh no, you know, again, I'm going to have it. You know, I had it yesterday, I have it today. If there were just fewer days in the year or whatever, how do I escape this? It is the continual despair and the continual dropping. And then it says, in a very rainy day. You know, it gets a rainy day is dreary. You know, it's cloudy. The dreariness of it all. It's like there's a cloud in Peanuts. Isn't there a guy that has the cloud always? Who's got the cloud that follows?
Pigpen.
Oh, Pigpen.
He's so dirty and dusty.
Oh, that's the cloud. All right. Well, we're not talking about Pigpen. We're talking about something that's dreary. You know, you know, when the clouds ever have it so when the clouds go over and it's so thick it actually gets dark. You know, when that sun gets long. See, when you have an argument at your house, does your wife take part? When you have an argument at your house, does your wife take part? No, she takes all of it. All of it. I mean, you don't get a word in edgewise. Yes, dear. Yes, dear. Yes, dear. And it's just this drip, 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 and it's very dreary. You never fight with your wife? No, she goes her way and I go hers. I thought that was funny. The only way to get along is to go along, right? In a case like that, it can be a very dreary thing. Now, some of you may not experience these things. or you experience a little bit of it, and some of you experience a lot of it. But we got to take note, if you are experiencing it, and it appears it's not a man thing. Now you can find verses that can point to men, but you can find more verses that point to that it is a woman thing. And then our fifth one here is the dampening of it. It's a rainy day. It's not dampening as in to make wet or moist, but dampening as in deadening the spirit. The spirit of the house becomes like a dead zone. Like a dead zone. No one's smiling tonight, you know? Are anybody passing out? Tired? It's a dampening. You know what? It's when we, in engineering, we do this. There is a lab for this. You spin something. What do they do that with tires? You call that not static, but it's not static balancing. It's
Spin balance.
spin balancing. That's dynamic. Dynamic means it's moving, and so that you put this because it hits these. It needs to be dampened. One way to dampen things that's rattling. How do you dampen? The whole car is shaking. How do you stop something from rattling or shaking? You dampen it. You dampen it by putting on a weight on there to dampen this. It's like this heavy weight overhangs the entire house, and it just dampens the whole spirit. I mean, we used to have some good times. I wanted Corey to hear this message about having that during he had the baby. Oh, the one about the rainbow, and you did find that for me, and they have not listened to it. I mean, we used to have a blast in the house. And what started the last baby and started the big problem with her bleeding again, she was placenta previa, is we were playing snake in the grass. And but we used to have a lot of fun playing games like that. I mean, Luke, did you ever play snake in the grass? See, you need the opportunity of playing snake in the grass. And then Zach, are you out? Zach is out cold. Grayson, did you ever play snake in the grass?
No.
Shane, did you ever play snake? Come here, you three. Come here. Shane, my man. You never played snake in the grass. Come on. I'll be the snake. I'll be the snake. You never played snake in the grass. I mean, where did we learn that from? Mennonites? Did we learn it from Baptists? I don't even know where we learned it from. Anybody ever hear, other than Ben, and Sonny went to the bathroom, Buster played it, you played it, I played it. Anybody ever play snake? Did you play with us? Snake in the grass? Oh, it was, no, we didn't, all right, is you lay down, oh, I got to be careful. I got a real bad, what do you call that? A nerve on my kneecap. And you get on the ground, and everybody put their hand on my head. You got a hand there, you three? Put it on my head. All three of you. Shane. My head. And then you go 1, 2, 3, and say, snake in the grass. Say 1. Mrs. Tucker, come here. Come here, you snake. Mrs. Tucker, put your hand right here on my gray hair. Can you bend down? I'm sitting. No, a little louder than I think we did. 1, 2, 3, snake in the grass. Oh, that's not very thrilling. Well, someone help me up. Somebody help me up. Okay, man. Okay, sit down. Well, you learn how to play snake. Okay. I'm sorry. You never heard of it? Well, I don't know. We heard of it for somebody to say 1, 2. Well, that wasn't very exuberant. Smile. You're on Canada Kid. And you go, snake in the grass. And then the snake crawls around. And you're playing in the living room. And the snake is to tag everybody. And as soon as you get tagged, then you're out of the game. And then there's the last one that get tagged. They become the snake. Is it a dumb game? It's a dumb game. But we had a blast playing it. Didn't we? And what happened is she jumped over the couch. Yeah, the wifey jumped over the couch. She was 8 months along. You were 8 months along, and this mountain went over. You were pretty far along, or maybe 6 months along. You were pretty far because we ended up at the Brown Derby, and then that's when you were on the floor, and then you went to the hospital. You were about 7 months, no, maybe 6 months along. But it was like a blimp went over, and it started the eruption. But it is without that and that kind of thing. If it's this continual problem of dripping every day, it dampens and discourages and depresses the whole house. It's like making a deadened spirit. To make depressed or discouraged. And if there's a silver lining in the cloud, I mean, you got to look to find it, man. You got to really stretch your imagination to find a silver lining. Here's another one. When you fought today, you let your husband have the last word, huh? Well, that is unusual. Well, yes, it is. But today is his birthday. Right? You know, I know that all of us here have some kind of a quirk, something that we could probably work on, huh? All right, and then it's like you may not see it so much around here. If you see a roof caved in, where do you normally see that?
On a farm.
On a farm, the shed. You have to go up into, not to say anything against Appalachia, but you go to Appalachia. You go to places like this. So our sixth one is, there is the decay. The decay. This continual dropping in a very rainy day. That's what it says, continual dropping in a very rainy day. The leak, who knows where the leak is? You know, to find the leak, it's tough. The leak comes through, it runs down the rafter. It finds another place to stop, and then it drips. And then it continues day after day, year after year. When the transom in a boat rots out, anybody know what the transom is? It's the part of the back that the motor's connected to. It's the backboard in the back. I think that's the transom, the back of the boat. Usually when wood rots out, they call it, what do they call it? Dry rot. But it has nothing to do with getting wet and getting dry, getting wet and getting dry. It's really wet rot. It's because it's wet constantly. And so this drip is a continual thing. And eventually the whole mess caves in. That's when the man finally says, I surrender. I'm out of here. Is when finally the whole thing, each successive rainstorm, it continues then to sag until the whole rotten mess caves in. It's not a flood. It's not a flood or a flurry of that. When a flood or a flurry comes, people recover. You know, they're resilient and they recover. It's this continual push. Just this little like, oh, will you stop that? Will you stop that? See, this continual push. And he thinks to himself, will you stop it? Will you stop it? Until finally he has enough. He finally has enough. It's got to be this continual dripping and this continual dropping until finally his will has just been decayed. I didn't mean to mess you up there. It decayed until finally he gives up. He gives up and the whole thing just collapses. The whole thing collapses, the decay of it. Then it says a contentious, one that is a contender. ready to fight. They're willing to fight. Might makes right. Our next word here is the demanding. There is this demanding. The wife got in the car and said, "Oh, this car's a dirty mess. You ought to be ashamed of it." Now, the last one that said that was, anybody recall who the last one that said that? Look to your left, look to your right. It was Starlight. I said, well, when we get home, you get to clean it. So when we get home, Starlight, if you would, clean up the car a little bit. It is kind of a dirty mess. But a continual, daily demand. Continual, daily demand. This demanding. So what does a woman demand from a man? Let's see, you get out of bed. What's the first thing she demands? What do you do when you get out of bed? Make the bed. There's not one day in my entire life I didn't get out of bed and make the bed. There's only one thing that keeps me from making the bed. If you're in it. If my wife is in it, I don't make the bed. Right? I don't make the bed. I'm up, I get dressed. Now, if she gets up, I make it. Now, if it's a drip, we're talking about bed making. What then gets to be then the continual daily thing? It's not that I made the bed. It's yeah. Did you make the bed right? Right? Here's how it usually works. All right, well then I'll make the bed. Well, it's guaranteed then when I get home the bed's never made, because I always make the bed. Do I always make the bed? Most of the time? Well, if you're in the bed, I don't make it. But if you're not in the bed, I make the bed. But I'm trying to apply this. You got to have an illustration. If it's continual, it's not that I made the bed, it's how I made the bed. Right? How you made the bed. Continual demand, this continual daily demand. My wife always has the last word. You're lucky, my wife never gets to it. Huh? And then it's the woman. It says the continual, what does it say? Contentious woman. And so that's the damsel. Now, if you look up the word damsel in the dictionary, I don't think it's a negative word. It's just a word denoting a woman. Here's another one. When Eve saw her face in the pond, she accused Adam of having an affair. You realize there was no mirror there? So she looks into the pond, sees herself, and she probably never saw herself. So she thinks she's looking at another woman. The way to fight a woman is with your hat. Grab it and leave. And so the person that is, according to the Bible, that is guilty of this. Now, can men be like this too? Yeah, they could be like this. But it's going to be a woman. It's like a dripping faucet. When you and I were younger, when we were much, much younger, we tended to have dripping faucets in the house. Did anybody grow up with dripping faucets in the house? Not all the time, but you had to. No, not you. I'm talking about us older people. All right. What was not in the faucet that they have today? I mean, faucets today, I have to admit, a lot of engineering has gone into this that makes it a lot nicer. I mean, faucets shut off now.
Our modern faucets are washerless and they have ceramic inserts.
Well, let's get it even before that. Without the washerless, they had an O-ring in it today. Well, years ago, you just had a thing in there, and you had the seat. You had to reseat it. And you had to put a new gasket in there. Remember those days? Mm-hmm. Did you have a seater? Did anybody remember a seater? You grind that brass off in there.
Yeah.
That was one of my jobs I always did with my father. Go get the tools. I'd go get the tools. We'd take the faucets apart, and we would take this thing and reseat it. Anybody reseat a faucet? You've reseated them?
I replaced the seats.
Oh, replace it. Well, we would actually grind it,
Chicago.
and then you screw in a washer. All right, so the old faucet, you regrind the seat, if I remember right. In the new faucet, you put in a new O-ring. I've had them where they still drip with O-ring, and whoever installed the O-ring, it gets twisted in there, or they didn't even install that right. But it drips because of a bad seal, folks. It drips because of a bad seal. But with Christ, we should be sealed with the Spirit, amen. We should have a good seal. We should have a very good seal with Christ taking over our lives. Amen. And last of all is this. It says, in my title tonight is Things That Are Like. A continual dropping in a very rainy day and a contentious woman are alike. But for you and I, it shouldn't be alike. Those two things should not be alike. There should be, and our last D word is the difference. In our story, those two things are alike, but with Christ, things are different now, folks. Things are and need to be different. Men and women are like bees. I've given this illustration before. Bees go out and they gather what? There's pollen in there. They spread pollen around. But let's make this real elementary. Nectar. Oh, let's even get better than that.
Honey.
Yeah, let's. Now you say, Pastor, you're not scientific, or let's not be extra scientific. Bees go out and get honey. Now, do they literally do that? All right, scientifically, no. They make it in honey. But let's get right down to it. The bees go out and they get honey. And so, Sonny, Buster, those that are coming home at night, you've got this honey. You're coming home with honey to honey. But that's at the one end. Where do you grab this? What's at the other end? The stinger. We're getting right down to the basics. The one end has got the honey, and the other end has got the stinger. Right? Right? Very close together. Men and women are like bees. Men return home like a bee to the hive with the sweetest honey, and he also carries with him the sharpest of stings. Right? Isn't that true? They carry honey and a stinger, and so does the wife, if it's likened unto a bee. Now, like I said before, now listen, like I said before, it's not the sudden flood that drives a man to despair. It's not the sudden flood like, God forbid, the house catches on fire. But we all got out. That's a sudden flood. But what causes a man to get into the point of despair is the continual, constant dripping. Right? The perpetual drip from her which lies the closest to him. Not from somebody else, there's usually an escape. It's the one that you are closest to. And remember, you have at your facility, like a bee, you've got either honey that you can use or the stinger that you use. A yellow jacket can sting repetitively. A honeybee does what? Stings once. And I don't know why that is. They sting once and then you see it leaves the stinger and half of the carcass is left behind. And it might be because it's pumping that venom still in you. I don't know why that is. I'm sure there's some scientific thing. But if you've stung once, make it your last one. Amen? Make it your last one. Remember, you're the one that you can do both. Either give out the honey or give out the stinger. Let's give out some honey. Amen? Because if you don't, it's this continual drip that drives people nuts. Listen, if you're going to play what did I say that game was called? Boy, and that did hurt my knee. Ah, snake in the grass, snake in the grass. We used to call it another game, bear. The bear would, a snake in the grass, you crawl around like a worm. A bear, you go on all fours. You could play it either way, but you got a big room there. You got to block it off so you restrict the room. Go home and play snake in the grass. It is fun. And turn the dumb ball game off. You'll have a lot more fun playing snake in the grass and having some pop. Shake hands before you